Air masses is a topic that can be found in Chapter 12, Section 7 in your textbook. An air mass is a body of air with uniform temperature and moisture content. This means a large section of air is going to have about the same temperature and the same moisture. So it's going to be hot and humid or cold and dry. Air masses move slowly over a uniform surface and take on the characteristic temperature and moisture content of that surface. So if it's over land, it's going to be dry. If it's in the tropical regions, it's going to be hot. There are 5 types of air masses. The top 4 are the most common. Continental air masses are very dry because they form over land which doesn't have a lot of moisture. Continental air masses are abbreviated with a lowercase c. Note that it's not a capital but a lowercase. Maritime, mar means ocean, or sea. It is indicated by a lowercase m, and since it forms over an ocean or sea, it's going to be very wet. Tropical, indicated by a capital T, not a lowercase, form over warm areas such as the tropics near the equator. Polar air masses are indicated with a capital P. They form over cold areas in the polar regions. And Arctic is not as common, but it can form near the North and South Pole and is indicated by a capital A. Now we can combine these to describe the temperature and the moisture content of an air mass. So a CT air mass would be a very dry but warm air mass. These are all the locations and types of air mass that could affect the United States. A CP air mass, notice the lowercase c and the capital P, stands for a continental polar air mass, and it's typically going to form over Canada, which is land and it's cold. MP, lowercase m, capital P, maritime polar. You're going to find these at the North Atlantic Ocean or the North Pacific Ocean, so it'll be cold and wet. Continental tropical, noted by a lowercase c and a capital T, will form over Mexico and the southwest United States. M and T, maritime tropical, will form over the Caribbean or the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans near the equator, so it'll be wet and hot. Capital A stands for Arctic. That will be from the North Pole. All of these will affect the United States, however, the first 4 will affect the United States mostly. These are all of the air masses that would affect the United States. In Pennsylvania, we'll often get MP air masses, maritime polar, so this will bring the cold, moist air for our winter snowstorms. In the summertime, we'll often get MT, maritime tropical air masses, coming up from the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. That'll bring us our hot, humid days in the summer. In the western part of the United States, CT, continental tropical, is going to be dry and hot, so you'll get our deserts down there. And maritime polar coming from the North Pacific, and again our continental polar coming from Canada.